I never thought a simple phone call could unravel everything I believed about my family. The voice on the other end was calm but hesitant, as if carrying the weight of an entire secret. I sat frozen, the hum of the city outside fading into nothing as the words hit me like a wave. There were things about my family I had never been told, things they did behind my back. Growing up, I always felt like we were an ordinary family with ordinary problems. We had dinners together, celebrated birthdays, and shared stories by the fireplace. But beneath that surface, I now realized, was a web of secrets so tangled it was impossible to tell where truth ended and lies began. The first clue came from an old, forgotten letter I found tucked away in the attic. It was addressed to my mother, but written by someone I didn't recognize. The handwriting was shaky, filled with regret and warnings. My heart pounded as I read between the lines, sensing betrayal, but unable to grasp its full extent. I confronted my parents, hoping for answers. Instead, I was met with silence and averted eyes. My father's voice finally broke through the tension, low and weary. He told me there were things they kept from me to protect me, but the words felt hollow, like a fragile shield barely holding back a storm. Days passed and the weight of suspicion grew heavier. I started digging into old family albums, searching for anything out of place. Then I noticed it, a photograph with a face I didn't recognize, standing a little too close to my grandfather, smiling as if they shared a secret. That was the moment I realized I was stepping into a labyrinth of hidden pasts. My siblings seemed oblivious, laughing about trivial things as if their worlds were untouched. But I could see the cracks in their smiles, the way they quickly changed the subject when I brought up the past. It was like we were living parallel lives, some of us aware, others blissfully ignorant. One evening, I found myself alone in the basement, sifting through boxes of old papers and memorabilia. The air was thick with dust and memories, and my fingers trembled as they brushed over a faded journal. It belonged to my grandmother, her handwriting delicate but firm, revealing a side of her I had never known. Her entries spoke of pain and sacrifice, but also of love that was complicated and sometimes shadowed by fear. She wrote about choices made in silence, about promises broken and kept, and about a secret that could change everything. My pulse quickened. Was this the key to the mystery that haunted my family? I shared some of the journal with my closest friend, someone outside the family who could offer perspective. They listened quietly, their eyes widening with each revelation. It was reassuring to have someone who believed me, who didn't dismiss my doubts as paranoia or youthful drama. But the more I uncovered, the more isolated I felt. Family gatherings became uncomfortable, filled with sideways glances and whispers just out of earshot. I was caught between wanting to confront them and fearing what might come next. Would they deny everything or admit to the fractures I already sensed? One night I overheard a conversation between my parents that shattered the fragile calm. Their voices were low but intense, laced with anger and regret. They argued over decisions made years ago, over mistakes that could no longer be undone. I wanted to intervene, to demand the truth, but I was paralyzed by the weight of what I might hear. The next morning, I found an old key taped to the bottom of a drawer in my mother's desk. It was small and rusty, but it felt significant, like a piece of a puzzle waiting to be unlocked. I hesitated, knowing that what I was about to open might change everything forever. The key fit perfectly into a locked box I discovered hidden behind a loose panel in the bedroom closet. Inside were letters, photographs, and documents that painted a very different picture of my family history, one filled with secrets, betrayals, and sacrifices that no one had ever spoken about. I found a letter from my father to a woman I had never heard of, filled with apologies and promises that were never kept. The words were raw, revealing a side of him I had never seen. It was like peeling back a layer of armor to reveal a vulnerable man struggling with his choices. As I read on, I discovered that the woman was connected to a past affair, one that had been carefully hidden to protect the family's reputation. The shock of it left me breathless. How could they have kept this from me all these years? What else had been buried beneath the surface? I reached out to distant relatives, hoping to piece together the story from different perspectives. Some were reluctant to talk, others were eager to share, but all confirmed whispers of a family fractured by secrets and pain. It was clear that the past was not just history, it was a living, breathing force shaping our present. One afternoon, I sat with my grandmother, the woman whose journal had started this journey. Her eyes were tired but kind as she listened to my questions. Slowly, she began to reveal pieces of the story she had kept hidden, her voice trembling with emotion and regret. She spoke of love and loss, of decisions made in desperation, and of a family bound together by more than blood, by shared pain and the hope for forgiveness. Her words were a balm and a wound all at once, offering understanding but also opening old scars. Despite the painful truths, I felt a strange sense of relief. The silence that had suffocated me was finally breaking, and though the air was thick with tension, there was also a fragile hope that healing could begin. But I knew the path ahead would be anything but easy. I started writing down everything I learned, hoping to create a record that could one day bring clarity rather than confusion. Each detail mattered, the names, the dates, the emotions woven through every secret. It was like reconstructing a shattered mirror, hoping to see a whole reflection again. My siblings noticed the change in me, the late nights spent researching, the distant look in my eyes. They asked questions, some gentle, others more probing. I debated how much to share, afraid that opening old wounds might hurt us all, but also knowing that silence was no longer an option. One evening, we gathered around the dining table, the air heavy with unspoken tension. I laid out some of the letters and photos I had found, watching their faces shift from confusion to disbelief. The room felt smaller, charged with emotions we had never dared to express before. My father finally spoke, his voice breaking as he admitted to mistakes and regrets he had carried for decades. It was the first time I saw him not as a distant, impenetrable figure, but as a flawed human being, struggling with the consequences of his choices. My mother remained quiet, tears tracing silent paths down her cheeks. I realized then how much pain she had borne alone, protecting us from truths that were too heavy to bear. The realization made my anger soften into something more complex, compassion mixed with sorrow. The conversation was far from resolved, but it opened a door to honesty that had long been closed. We agreed to keep talking, to face the uncomfortable truths together rather than bury them deeper. It felt like the first fragile step toward rebuilding trust. In the days that followed, I found myself replaying every moment, every word spoken and unspoken. The weight of the secrets lingered, but so did a new understanding of my family, of myself, and of the messy, beautiful complexity of human relationships. I realized that secrets have a way of shaping us, whether we know them or not. They can protect or destroy, bind or break. And sometimes, the hardest part is learning to live with the truths uncovered, finding a way to move forward without losing who we are. The journey was far from over. There were still questions unanswered, wounds unhealed, and stories left untold. But for the first time, I felt ready to face whatever came next, not alone, but with the people who shared this tangled, imperfect history with me. Each day brought new challenges and unexpected moments of connection. Old resentments surfaced, but so did laughter and the flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could rewrite our family story together, honestly, openly, and with love. I keep thinking about the moment I found that letter, how a single piece of paper can change everything. It's strange to realize that behind the facades we construct, there are always hidden stories waiting to be told, stories that shape us in ways we never imagined. Sometimes I catch myself watching my family, noticing the subtle shifts in their expressions, the way they try to bridge the gaps that years of silence created. It's both heartbreaking and hopeful, this dance of rediscovery, where every step is uncertain but necessary. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I'm learning to accept the complexity of our past. I'm learning that love isn't always simple, and that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to face the truth together, no matter how painful. This story is still unfolding, and I promise to keep sharing what I find, because sometimes the only way out of the darkness is through it, and maybe, in telling our story, we can find a way to heal the wounds that have haunted us for so long. I hope that anyone listening knows they're not alone. Families are messy, stories are complicated, and secrets have a way of slipping through the cracks. But there's strength in uncovering the truth, even when it hurts, and power in choosing to keep going. So here I am, still piecing together the fragments, still asking questions, still searching for answers. And as much as the past weighs on me, I'm also filled with a strange kind of hope, that through honesty and courage, we might find a way to be whole again. If you're reading this and your family has secrets, know that you're not the first to feel lost or betrayed. But also know that there's a path forward, even if it's unclear right now. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is to face the truth and let it set us free. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I'm ready to keep walking this path. Because no matter how dark the shadows behind my family's back, I believe there's light waiting to be found, if only we're willing to look for it together. The night is quiet now, and I'm sitting by the window, watching the stars flicker in the sky. It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's a bigger story unfolding, one that includes pain, yes, but also hope, resilience, and the possibility of new beginnings. Tomorrow, I'll keep searching, keep asking, keep listening, because the truth matters, and so does healing. And maybe, just maybe, by sharing my story, I can help someone else find the courage to face their own family secrets. For now, I'll hold on to the hope that the bonds we break can also be mended, that the love beneath the secrets can still shine through, and that the family I thought I knew is still waiting to be discovered in a new, honest light. This is just the beginning, and I'm ready for whatever comes next. I never imagined that behind the smiles and everyday routines, there was a history so complicated it felt like a different world. But here I am, living it, breathing it, and learning that sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that set us free. The more I uncover, the more I realize how much we all carry silently, wounds, regrets, and hopes that never find a voice until the moment they burst into the open. And that moment changes everything. It's strange how one secret can ripple through a family, touching everyone in ways no one expects. Suddenly, the past isn't just past, it's a living part of our present, shaping who we are and who we might become. I'm learning to be patient with the process, with the people, and with myself. Healing doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes the hardest part is just sitting with the pain long enough to let it turn into something new. There's a strange comfort in shared pain, in knowing that the people we love are also flawed, broken, and trying their best. It doesn't erase the hurt, but it makes it a little easier to carry. As I write this, I'm reminded that family isn't about perfection. It's about the messy, complicated, beautiful struggle to understand one another, even when the past is full of secrets and the future is uncertain. I don't have all the answers, and some days I feel more lost than ever. But I keep going because I believe in the possibility of truth, in the power of forgiveness, and in the resilience of love. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that silence can be louder than words, and secrets can weigh heavier than any burden. The choice to break that silence is the first step toward freedom. I'm grateful for the people who have stood by me during this journey, friends who listen without judgment, family members who are willing to face the truth, and even strangers who have shared their stories and given me strength. This story is far from over, and I'm ready to face whatever comes next with an open heart and a steady resolve. Because in the end, family is about more than just blood. It's about the bonds we choose to nurture, even when the past is painful. So here I stand, on the edge of what was and what might be, ready to write the next chapter of my family's story, one where secrets no longer hold us captive, and where love can finally breathe freely. It's scary, it's painful, and it's uncertain, but it's also real, and sometimes that's all we need to start healing. I don't know what you'll think of my story, or if it will resonate with you, but if there's one thing I hope you take away, it's this: never be afraid to seek the truth, even if it's hidden behind walls you never thought to climb. Because sometimes, the truth is the key that unlocks not just the past, but the future as well. Thank you for listening. I'll keep sharing, and I hope you'll keep watching as this story unfolds. And who knows, maybe together we can find a way to face the secrets that live behind every family's closed doors. For now, I'll keep holding on to hope and keep searching for the light in the shadows. Because even when the past is full of secrets, the future is still ours to write. And that feels like a story worth telling. Behind every smile, there's a story. Behind every family, there's a history that's not always pretty. But telling that story is the first step toward understanding and maybe toward healing. I hope you'll join me on this journey as I uncover the truths hidden behind my family's closed doors. Because sometimes the hardest stories are the most important ones to tell. And this is mine. I'm not done yet, not by a long shot. There are still secrets to uncover, wounds to heal, and stories to tell. And I'm ready for it all. Thanks for being here with me. This is just the beginning. And the story is far from over.